Good afternoon to you all. This is the last session, and I'm aware that because of the excitement of the morning session perhaps and the last session, you should have been pretty thirsty and in need of your tea, but the organizers have denied you the tea break. But let me take this opportunity because this is a critical session, and I believe for the audience which is here today of tremendous relevance. We have a very strong panel here. I'd like to just mention Mr. Ramesh Jalan, the resource person for the Climate Change Community Solution Exchange, UNDP India. Mr. Shiva Kumar, CEO, NSDI, Department of Science and Technology. Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee from DIT, and of course Mr. Gupta, who is known to all of you and would certainly support us with his views. Now, I take the liberty as chair of actually trying to set the framework for the discussion in the form of a presentation regarding whether there really is a role for ICT in ensuring the inclusive growth of our economy, or whether that's not a solution at all and the solution lies elsewhere. So let me take this through a small presentation, and then perhaps I will request the speakers one by one to contribute. We talk a lot now about inclusive growth, but one of the challenges for a country like ours is actually to understand how it is to be achieved. We have the usual truisms about our country, about the disparity, the diversity within the country, and the kind of complexities that brings in to the way in which we govern ourselves and the way we deliver programs. At the same time, with a country that's growing the way ours is, there are aspirations and there are responses that a government gives or that a community gives to those aspirations. I'd like to look at whether ICT really makes an impact on that. What are the key initiatives that have been undertaken in response or in the initiative to try and use ICT to improve quality of services, improve the access to services, and perhaps what could be the way ahead for us. These are the things we know about the country. In terms of population, 1.2 billion, two-thirds of it rural, large number of languages, religions, ethnicities, a democracy that is maddening and yet it somehow works, and a large number of democratic institutions at multi-tier levels. When we look in terms of the promise, the last 2 decades have seen much more market integration than we had seen earlier. We've got a fairly healthy GDP growth rate over the last decade, and even when it falters, it is much stronger than many of the countries globally. Our average per capita incomes have risen substantially, and nevertheless, in this context, we still see that South Asia contributes more than 40% of the world's poor. And within our own country, there's more than 300 million poor people, approximately 20% of the world's poor. And the disparities are apparent in terms of not just income, in terms of access to education, in terms of access to healthcare also. One of the very strong policy responses to the aspirations of people who have sought to see that they also share in the economic growth of our country has been to create a very strong rights framework. And this is reflected in the right to information, the right to employment as embodied in the NREGA Act, the right to education, and now what is now under finalization, the right to food and the right to public services. In order to address disparities, we are spending something like 150,000 crores annually in various programs like the NREGA, the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, you can see the numbers there. So the investment and the will of government to create a framework that is accountable, that is enable citizens to exercise their rights, and to put money where that commitment lies is quite apparent. And nevertheless, in this context, what we see is that the outcomes, or perhaps the speed with which this kind of legislative framework, this kind of rights-based framework, and this kind of investment should be giving us outcomes, isn't happening. It's in this context that perhaps it's relevant that we are talking about ICT for inclusive growth. The physical means of delivery in a country of the scale and complexity of ours has certain limitations. There are, and we've seen it globally across the world, that new information and communication technologies are some of driving growth stories in many, many countries in the world. Within India also, there is a certain set of circumstances, emerging numbers, which presents us with an opportunity. We have a large base of the active internet users, about 65 million, and that's a fast-growing base. And the mobile connections, the total mobile connections now have crossed, this says 19 million, but the last numbers that we were looking at was 975 million. So this is a number which changes week to week. And the total number of mobile connections that we have in this country is a number that we talk of often. But how do you leverage these kind of numbers? How do you make these a tool for delivery of services? This doesn't perhaps mean that we have this many number of persons, but at least 76% is the mobile penetration which has been assessed. And that is a very substantial population that can be reached. The newer technologies that we are aware of allows us to make much faster, easier delivery of services. And at the same time, we are confronted with the public pressure for better quality of services and much more transparency. The responses have been, and this again looks at the same time as which the union government has looked to roll out with large schemes, large programs to deliver programs to the public, to deliver the basic entitlements to the community. There's also been a very strong approach to use ICT tools to facilitate the delivery of some of those. These 31 mission mode projects, many people in this room are familiar with these, so I'm not going to repeat it, but these cover nearly every sector of service delivery that the government has to give to its citizens. And some of these are at different stages, but a total of 275 services are intended to be delivered across these 31 mission mode projects, as we call them. 10 of these projects are at the central level, 14 at the state level, and 7 of these are integrated projects. And many of them have started rolling out services in different ways, but the objective of ensuring much more efficient delivery of services is what drives each one of these mission mode projects. The point that comes up in most of the debate and discussion now is, yes, we've looked at a lot of e-enabled services. We've been working under the NEGP program for years, and a lot of achievement has happened. But nevertheless, we also feel that we have fallen somewhat short of our objectives. So the current thinking is around the idea of whether mobile-enabled services can be that game changer that we are looking for. This provides straight away, because we look at the numbers, much wider access to the e-services, and these in turn to the more sustainable and inclusive growth. The limits of internet penetration in the country, though as the previous session would have talked about, the No-Fund network will certainly improve that, but currently it limits our access to e-government services. The mobiles enable us to provide anytime, anywhere access to and delivery of services, and allows us to bridge that last mile gap. The kind of investments which are required proportionate to the benefits we can deliver are not that substantial. And these are very amenable to delivery of the government services, particularly financial inclusion, microcredit, and location-based services. Last year, rather early this year, the DAIITY came out with the framework for mobile governance, which aimed to tap exactly this tool in order to facilitate the quality of and the reach of services to the community. What did the framework prescribe? First, to make the websites of all government departments and agencies mobile compliant, to provide access, that means to information as well as to responses. Recommended for the open standards for mobile applications so that they were interoperable across devices and across platforms. A single-digit pre-designated number has been allotted to DAIITY for M-Government services, and those numbers, as you can see, we are already delivering some services on the 5-digit number, and on the 3-digit number that's to be rolled out. And there was a mandate that all mission mode projects and all government services should see, to the extent possible, what services they could deliver through mobile devices. The third large intervention, and that was as I came into the last piece of the previous session, there's been a lot of discussion about the common service centers, but this was a third very important initiative to ensure the quality of services and the access to services, in the sense that unlike in many Western countries, we don't have internet penetration to each and every home, but we can certainly target internet penetration to the community and community access through the tool of the Common Service Center. This, therefore, the Common Service Center actually works as a tool. The physical tool perhaps could be the physical connectivity, roads which allow market access, access to other services, access to educational institutions, and the Common Service Center which provides the ICT connectivity which facilitates social inclusion as well as financial inclusion. So this is a very key tool for the total integration of the rural community with the larger economy of the country. I believe that one of my colleagues would have represented earlier the total number of common service centers available through the country, but the only point I wish to make in this slide is that there is a countrywide reach and availability of common service centers, so that it becomes a tool to deliver the services. A lot of initiatives, when we look at the Millennium Development Goals, we focus key on financial inclusion, literacy, as well as health services. So a large number of initiatives have taken place in education, but they are piecemeal, and we still have to do that stitching of all these interventions to make a single mission mode project which provides services throughout the country. Again, in health, telemedicine, electronic health records, the e-insurance, mother and child tracking systems, a large number of interventions are in place, but in full measure, we are still working on the mission mode project which will deliver these. But in a substantial measure, the point is that government is seized of these three key sectors and the need to provide services in a better, more efficient way using ICT. In financial inclusion also, perhaps the previous session talked about the tools which are being deployed for financial inclusion and to ensure banking facilities and payment services, insurance services at the grassroots to the community. In conclusion, and perhaps to set the tone for what we would like to discuss and what I would hope that the panelists would look at, is the short point that ICT is a significant tool for making government services available to the common man. That mobile-based service delivery can ensure an accelerated uptake of services. That ICT in education, health, public distribution, banking, microinsurance will be key in reducing disparities across our country. And that ICT in schemes like NREGA, PDS, midday meal program are again essential to improve efficiency, transparency, and accountability of the government mechanism, and that we do have isolated examples throughout the country of good practices in ICT in each of these areas, and those are the ones which we have to leverage, and perhaps forums like this aim to utilize to the extent possible. So with that, I would request the first speaker and to kindly make his remarks. Dr. Ramesh Jalan, perhaps you would like to start.